Now let's change topic. The time has come to listen to Desirée Binternagel, CEO of Forever and member of the European Partnership for Responsible Minerals. She is an expert in precious metals with special focus on responsible supply chains. She has a master in American Studies focusing on social injustice and gender injustice, inequality. She has worked in the high fashion sector and then in the gold sector. Dr. Binternagel with Forever matches a personal experience with protection for the environment and social justice, supporting the actors in the world of jewelry in the journey towards sustainability. The title of our presentation is The Advantages of Fairtrade and Fairmined Certifications for Jewelers and Manufacturers. Sustainable, ethical practices in jewelry are becoming more and more important, and it is therefore important to talk about non-profit certifications, Fairtrade and Fairmined, and all their advantages for all the actors in the supply chain. Desirée Binternagel will expand on these topics without neglecting challenges and interesting case studies to better understand the scenario. Mrs. Binternagel, please come to the floor. She is here at the JTF presenting for the first time.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having the stamina to stay until now. I'm sure you're all craving for some coffee or an after-hour beer, but I promise to make it short. I learned a lot today, actually, and hopefully now that I know that most of you work with gold every day or you research about it, I can tell you a little more about the origin of this gold that you are working with every day. So I would like to start by giving you an overall overview about the global gold demand. I have some numbers here from 2022. In total, the world needed about 4,700 tons of gold. And most of it came from the mining industry, of course, so out of this earth. About 30% came from recycled sources. But of course, this recycled gold has also been mined at some earlier point. Unfortunately, we don't know how this happened and when. In the best case, we are talking about post-consumer gold from old jewelry or electronical tools, but unfortunately, in the very worst case, it can happen that this gold was only mined a few weeks earlier than that. There is actually one study by the Swiss non-profit organization SwissAid that has found out that the United Arab Emirates buys gold from conflict areas such as the Congo or Russia, processes it and resells it as recycled gold. So this is also something we need to think about when we talk about recycled gold. Now, let's look at the gold that we know that has been mined. Most of that is coming from large-scale industrial mining organizations. So those are multinational companies that go into countries like Africa, have big organizations, lots of machines, getting the gold out of the ground. And about 20% of this gold is coming from the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. The astonishing part about that is actually that 90% of all miners do work in this very small sector in the artisanal and small-scale mining. So 1 out of 10 people work in the large-scale industrial mining and are responsible for 80% of the global gold supply coming from mining. But a huge amount of people are dependent on small-scale mining, and the number will surprise you. It's more than 150 million people that are dependent on ASM mining. So this number is telling us basically one thing. When we look at the artisanal and small-scale mining sector, we can have a huge impact on countries of the global south, on the way that people are living in these mining regions. Unfortunately, though, the way that they live and work is more than precarious. So you can already tell by this picture here that it's not much fun to be dependent on gold mining. And also our environment is severely destructed by the gold mining industry. I'm sure most of you heard in the news about deforestation of the Amazon. And of course, we also have the toxic waste that is produced by gold mining. As most of you are from this sort of area, you are probably aware that we need cyanide or mercury in order to separate gold from the rock. And the gold mining industry is actually responsible for 180 million tons of toxic waste, and that is per year. So every year this waste ends up in our environment. And then I'd like to show you a little video of how this toxic touch with mercury, for example, is looking like for the people that live there. So now we can start the video, please.
Before transforming the dust into gold nuggets, Marcel still has hours of work.
Ça se place comme ça. Vous voyez? Et on envoie l'autre comme ça. C'est dans cette farine qu'il y a l'or. Voilà.
Being heavier than the other residues, the gold stays in the hair of the carpet. When washed, the carpet releases the gold.
Voilà en fait le début du nouveau trou. Ce qui est en jaune. La poussière d'or. C'est l'or. Le métal le plus précieux auquel les gens en Afrique ici perdent leur vie pour ça. C'est ce métal-là. Voilà. Et c'est pas facile.
To mix the gold, Marcel uses mercury, a poison that he handles with his bare hands. The mercury then compresses the gold. To get rid of it, it needs to be burnt. The highly toxic smoke reaches Florent, the youngest member of the family. When inhaled, the mercury attacks the nervous system and all vital organs. This substance kills little by little, but no one is aware of the danger.
Ça y est, c'est fini. Il est devenu à la stable or. C'est ça maintenant l'or.
Marcel has never found more than this gold nugget of barely 1 gram.
So yes, this is a part that most of us don't think about when they buy their wedding rings, for example. But it's happening every day. And of course, I mean, if your biggest worry is how to support your family, you don't think about the mercury that you use. And they call it also a poison that slowly kills. Like, you don't notice it immediately when you smell, for example, the toxic fumes. But over the years, all these people suffer severe damages. And there's more problems. We have the problem of child labor. So children carry heavy loads out of the mines. Let's see if we can get the next slide. And actually, it's more than 1 million children that work in the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. So that's a huge problem that we have to think about. And we have human trafficking and slavery, something most of you probably thought doesn't exist anymore. But for example, in Peru, there's a very common system for the gold mining industry. It's called the Cachorreo principle, where people are working for 30 days in a gold mine without getting any payment at all. And on the 31st day, they can keep whatever gold they find as their wage. Of course, the owners of the mine will make sure to send them somewhere where they don't find anything at all. So this is how people are exploited in the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. And I could go on and tell you more about that, but we also want to look at solutions today. Probably most of you have seen this logo before, maybe in the supermarket, on coffee or chocolate. So there is the Fairtrade certification, and it also exists for gold from artisanal and small-scale mining. Fairtrade created a standard for responsible mining practices. And what you see here are the 4 pillars of the standard. So one part are the working conditions. This is about protective equipment for the workers, about health and safety trainings, first aid courses and health checks. Then we have the environmental protection, where it is about a safe and reduced use of toxic chemicals, the protection of water supplies, and renaturation measures. Of course, we have the social development of these communities, no abusive child labor, gender equality, and of course, no link to conflict situations. And last but not least, it is about the organizational development, because we want to make those mines being able to work in a sustainable way and to improve their communities. So in order to create this standard, Fairtrade has connected with Fairmined, which is an initiative that has formed out of the Alliance for Responsible Mining, deriving from one of the first responsible mining projects in Argentina. Another part of this standard for responsible gold mining is a minimum price for the gold that is being paid to the miners. 95% of the LBMA gold market price is the minimum that the mines get when I purchase gold from them. Of course, we also have the factor of demand and supply, so it can be a different price than that, but it has to be a minimum of 95%. And in addition to that, there is a social premium that the miners get, which has to be invested in order to improve the conditions under which the workers live and work. With Fairtrade, the social premium is $2,000 per kilogram gold. Fairmined has a social premium of $4,000 per kilograms of gold. And there is even an ecological premium, which is used for mines that work strictly without the use of chemicals, and this is $6,000 per kilogram. So this comes on top of the price that they already get for the gold. And I would like to show you an example of how this responsible gold mining can look like. We are looking here at the landscape in Colombia, and I'm going to show you a short video of the mining cooperative Iquira, located in the Cauca region of Colombia. If we could play the video, please. Thank you.
La certificación Fairmined nos ha servido mucho. Primero que todo, se concientiza uno de que el impacto ambiental sea mucho menos.
De no destruir tanto la tierra, porque tenemos las dos actividades, como mineros y como agricultores. Todos cultivamos el café, el plátano, la yuca, el maíz, frijol, todo eso lo cultivamos en nuestra finca. Nos preocupamos por el medio ambiente.
Primero en el cubrimiento de salud, de la seguridad. Tenemos un trabajo estable, tenemos pues, beneficio para nuestras familias también, porque también recibimos un subsidio básicamente para nuestros hijos. En cuanto al estudio, básicamente lo desempeñamos en eso.
Aquí la comunidad también la hemos apoyado a lo que son algunas escuelas, a los ancianatos, a la parroquia de Pacarní, a la parroquia de Iquira.
La certificación Fairmined.
So with Fairmined and Fairtrade, it's all about the impact on the mining communities. And this is actually where it goes one step beyond the use of recycled gold, right? Let me show you some examples of how this impact can look like besides what you already seen in the video. So we have the building of roads, for example, where infrastructure is improved. Social facilities are built. What you can see on this picture here is a house that was built for the workers of a mine in Peru, so they can have their meals in a warm setting. Things that seem very normal for us here in Europe, but they aren't over there, you know. We start with the very basic things. And then, of course, we have medical aid, so they get free health checks, for example, which is really important because those mines are often located in very remote areas. Another example I just saw last year when I visited a mine in Colombia, where the premium was actually used in order to pay a therapist to visit the mine once a week and give the miners the opportunity to talk to a therapist. And I mean, I thought that's really an amazing thing that they do, because this really changes the face of a community. You have a lot of problems in these areas. For example, in Colombia, you have hardly any possibilities to earn an income. And it's a very violent landscape that people live in, where guerrilla wars are still going on. So something as simple as that can really change the people's lives. And of course, we have the environmental aspect again. The protection of water supplies is really important. Most of you probably know that you need a lot of water in order to separate gold from rock. And we also all know that we don't have much water necessarily in all areas of the world. And renaturation measures. In the middle, you see a picture of a renaturation measure in the Andean regions of Peru. So after the gold has been mined in alluvial mining, this is an example here, the holes are being filled again, and the Mother Earth is put back on the top of the soil in order to grow plants again, because those people are also dependent on, for example, alpaca farming, and alpacas do need plants to eat. And we have the responsible use of chemicals, so it is promoted that they use alternative methods in order to separate gold from rock. On this picture here, you see actually a very natural method to gain gold. Just use a shaking pan. Of course, this doesn't always work. There's actually machines as well, like, for example, gravitation tables that are used in order to mechanically separate gold from other materials. So let's talk quickly about the advantages for the people over here. So we already seen how big of an impact it has on the people in the mining regions, but of course it also has advantages for people, companies working with those certifications over here in Europe or in the US. Everybody has to think about ethical sourcing nowadays, and of course you want to make sure that there were fair working conditions on every step along your supply chain. We have a social responsibility, and actually all these examples that I gave you as for the impact that Fairtrade or Fairmined gold has, you can compare them to the European sustainability goals, and you will find most of them there. So if you want to work towards these goals, using Fairmined or Fairtrade gold is an ideal way to do that. And then we have the consumer who's getting more and more interested in sustainable sourcing, and they want to consume in a responsible way. And of course, this also gives you the option to differentiate yourself from the competition. And needless to say that this also improves your brand image in the end if you have a very transparent supply chain. Of course, there are also challenges and considerations, otherwise we would not be here today, because all of you would already use Fairmined or Fairtrade gold. It comes with a higher cost, obviously. We saw that there's a social premium that is paid to the mines. There is a certification process in order to make sure that we do have these transparent and traceable supply chains. And one has to be willing to educate educate the consumer, because it is a very complex topic to understand that mining takes place no matter what we do. Even if we use recycled gold, the demand is still much higher than that. So there will be more gold mining. And gold has such a big value that people will not leave it in the ground. So one has to be willing to take that effort and inform people about why we are doing this. And then, of course, there are auditing and reporting processes that take a little bit of an extra effort for a company. But we do have some great case studies already that are working with Fairmined gold or Fairtrade gold and are doing it quite well. A German jewelry company called Jan Spille has made Fairmined ecological gold their unique selling point. They also use Fairtrade gold, and actually people are traveling from all over Germany in order to get wedding rings made from Fairmined gold from this company. Or Fairtrade gold, he actually offers both, so even better. So you can see it's something where you can really stand out and make it your unique selling point. And other examples, you probably know the jewelry brand Chopard. They have integrated Fairmined gold into their supply chain and received much more media attention since then. High-class celebrities use Chopard jewelry and are really proud to be wearing an ethical jewelry brand. The requirements for certification are actually not as hard. I guess all of us have to do our bookkeeping. So if you can do your bookkeeping, you can also report your purchases and sales. Easy as that. Of course, you have to be willing to undergo an assessment and an audit, and be willing to undergo regular audits and reporting besides the documentation of your sales. In conclusion, I would just like to say that we all have to take on the responsibility to look at every step along our supply chain, and it is not enough to accept the status quo as it is, because we have seen under which precarious conditions the gold is mined, and we all have the chance to change something and improve people's lives by just looking at the origin of the material that we are using. So it's an easy thing because the gold still has the same composition, right? It doesn't change anything about the way that we work with it, but we have to be willing, of course, to pay this extra price, which I would say is the fair price for the work that's being done at the beginning of the supply chain. But especially with a product such as gold, which has such a high value, I find it would be the perfect opportunity to have an impact on improving the living conditions of people in the global south and create a social justice, which we all crave for, right? So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please come up to me. We can also talk afterwards, or you can tell me now. And I hope you all have a successful fair and learned something, and will continue to do so. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.